Hello and welcome to the world of botanical art. I'm Heather Harrington and I'm here in Celia Rosser's exhibition of the Banksias at Gippsland Art Gallery in Sale. Celia's a renowned botanical artist and she was commissioned by Monash University to paint every species of the Banksia, which took her 25 years to complete. Banksia Rossery, and it has quite a distinctive character and form. Its flowers are ball-shaped and they actually hang down. It was discovered in 2002 and named after Celia in her honour. It was painted several years later after it had flowered for the first time in many years. I'm looking at Banksia serrata, commonly known as the saw Banksia, named for the saw-like serrations on the leaf margins. This was Celia's introduction to Banksias and the first that she painted. Ironically, it was also one of the first that was discovered by Banks in 1770. Celia studied specimens in their natural habitat before she set about making numerous sketches experimenting with the composition. They were then refined many times before being sent to the botanist for scientific approval and finally transferred to watercolour painting for drawing up in preparation for painting. This process could take 2 to 3 months. You'll need some basic materials and equipment to get you started. First of all, you'll need some sketch paper and pads, and you can never have enough of these. Some pencils, HBs for what you want to keep and 2H for likely drawing, an eraser, pencil sharpener, magnifying glass or an iPhone which has a really good zoom on it, tracing paper, and I like a notebook just to jot down things as I learn along the way. And it's a good idea too to have some reference material. Before you start to draw leaves, it's a good idea to collect some specimens and press them so that you can refer to them at a later stage. I just use paper toweling and date when I collect them and write the names and the location of where I collected the samples. These are some skeletonized leaves, and it's easy to see that leaves usually have a central midrib from which the veins branch out. Botanical art is an actual representation of a live specimen, so it's important to draw only what you can see. This was Celia's strength, and she studied each specimen meticulously and from every angle so that you could understand the structure of the plant. A simple way to get started is to take some leaf rubbings. So I have a Banksia serrata here. This is that saw-edged Banksia. It's named from the serrations in its leaf. This one's attenuata, and it has lovely long slender leaves. This one's very different. This is Banksia. As you can see, the leaves on this one are triangular shaped, so different once again. This is one of my favourites, the coccinea, and these leaves are different again, quite oval shaped. And this one is a Menzii. This is a not so common pale yellow variety, but the leaves are the same. And this one, another Menzii, a more common pink flowering one. They also have a salmon variety and a deep burgundy colour. So there's a collection of leaves for our rubbings. Before you get started, take the time to have a look at the detail on your specimens through a magnifying glass or use your phone. It's really an interesting exercise. This is the Banksia with the triangular lobes. This is the serrata with the saw-like edges. And then next to it, the Menziei. You can just see the differences in the serrations. They're really quite distinctly different. For this activity, I'm just going to do some leaf rubbings, and it's important to write down the date when you do these for future reference. So I'm starting with the coccinea leaf, and if you look at both sides, feel the textures, you get an idea of how different they are. So I'm just placing it on the paper and hold them firmly, and then just take a leaf rubbing. It's a good idea to label each of these so that you remember which is which for later on. For this exercise, we're just going to practice drawing some lines, long sweeping lines on your paper. You can just keep going over these just to develop your fluency, and then see how accurately you can draw some parallel lines. This is often how we start drawing our leaves. Then try a couple of dots representing the length of the leaf and draw between those dots. Just practice those long sweeping lines. Next thing, same again. This is what we call the midrib of the leaf. And then add a couple of points representing the widest part of the leaf. And this time go from the start via the pot to the end. And this is how you go about drawing a quick sketch of a leaf. So you can try that with different shapes. Always start off with the main part, which is we call the midrib. Add the widest part of the leaves, and then carefully join the dots up. And just keep practicing those sweeping lines until you're happy with the result. So referring to your specimens, you need your ruler, and the first thing you do is measure the length of the leaf. And then transfer that to where you're going to draw it. Remember, I talked about the midrib of the leaf. And then we draw a gentle line in the shape of the leaf. The next thing we do is measure the widest parts of the leaf. And transfer that across to your drawing. And then, as we did in the earlier activity, we're just doing a simple line to get the shape of the leaf. as you become more proficient at this, then you can add the veins. When you've established the basic outline, then you can add the detail of the serrations. And by looking earlier, we got to see the type of serrations on this Menziei leaf, which was quite different, remember, from that saw edge one of the serrata. So just once you've established the type of serrations, you can just add those to your leaf. So again, this takes a lot of practice, and the more you do, the more proficient you'll be at this. For this last part, I'm looking at the Baxteri, the one with the lovely triangular lobes. And again, I started off with the midrib and using your ruler, measuring the distances of the leaf, length of the leaf and the distances of each of these triangular lobes. I've already made a start on this, so I'm just going to add the final lobe on this side, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I take a measurement, which gives me the length of the lobe. Carefully mark that. Then I measure the extremity of the leaf lobe. And then, like we did in that first activity, we're just joining the dots from the start, looking at this, at the way that it flows. And then I can add the next part, again carefully measuring the distance. And noting the extremity of the leaf at the widest part. Then looking at your specimen to check for the accuracy. And you'll notice that they don't actually meet exactly in the same place, so make sure that's reflected in your drawing. And finally, for the last part, measuring the length, the width at the widest point, referring to your specimen, and then joining it up. The more proficient you become at these, the more detail you can add. You can then pencil in more of the midrib and add the veins to the leaf. Remember to keep practicing, as this takes lots of patience, but it is fun and very rewarding. When you get the opportunity to visit Celia's exhibition here in Sale or at her gallery in Fish Creek, observe the detail in her work, and I guarantee you will be truly amazed and hopefully inspired to commence some botanical art.